just thinking about work, machinery, and kind of what goes on at work and what's going on in the world generally, and has been for centuries. From the ragged trousered philanthropists, the exterminating machines, starting on page 100. For God's sake, don't start no more arguments, cried Harlow, addressing Owen. We've had enough of that last week. You can't expect a boss to employ a man when he's too old to work. Of course not, said Crass. Philpot said nothing. I don't see no sense in always grumbling, Crass proceeded. There's things can't be altered. You can't expect there's plenty of work for everyone with all this labour-saving machinery what's been invented. Of course, said Harlow. The people what used to be employed on work, what's now been done by machinery, has to find something else to do. Some of them goes on our trade, for instance. The result will be that there's too many at it and there's not enough work to keep them all going. Yes, cried Owen eagerly. Yes, cried Crass eagerly. That's just what I said. Machinery is the real cause of all poverty. That's what I said the other day. Machinery is undoubtedly the cause of unemployment, replied Owen. But it's not the cause of poverty. That's another matter altogether. The others laughed derisively. Well, it seems to me to amount to about the same thing, said Harlow, and nearly everyone agreed. It doesn't seem to me to amount to the same thing, Owen replied. In my opinion, we're all in the same state of poverty, even when we have employment. The condition we are reduced to when we're out of work is more properly described as destitution. Poverty, continued Owen, after a short silence, consists in a shortage of the necessities of life. When those things are so scarce or so dear that people are unable to obtain sufficient of them to satisfy their needs, those are people in a condition of poverty. If you think that machinery, which makes it possible to produce all the necessaries abundances of life, is the cause of shortage, it seems to me that there must be something wrong with your minds. Of course we're all bloody fools except you, snarled Crass. When they're serving out sense, they give you such a lot. If there weren't none left for anybody else. If there wasn't something wrong with your minds, continued Owen, you'd be able to see that we might have plenty of your work and yet still be in a state of destitution. The miserable wretches who toil between 16 to 18 hours a day, father, mother, and even little children, making matchboxes or skirts or blouses, have plenty of work, but I for one don't envy them. Perhaps you think that a 14-hour day is in order to obtain a bare living. Therefore, we should not be in a condition of poverty. Talk about there being something the matter with your minds. If there were not, you wouldn't talk one day about tariff reforms as a remedy for unemployment, and then the next day about saying machinery is the cause of it. Tariff reform won't do away with machinery, will it? Tariff reform is the remedy for bad trade, returned Crass. In that case, tariff reform is the remedy for a disease that does not exist. If you would take the trouble to investigate for yourself, you'd find out that trade was never so good as it is at present. The output, the quantity of commodities of every kind produced in and exported from this country is greater than it has ever been before. The fortunes amassed in business are larger than ever before, but at the same time, owing, as you have just admitted, to the continued introduction and extended use of wage-saving machinery, the number of human beings is steadily decreasing. The number of employed human beings is steadily decreasing. I have here, continued Owen, taking out from his pocket a book, some figures which I obtained from the Daily Mail Yearbook, 1907, page 33. It is a very noticeable fact that the number of factories and their value have vastly increased in the United Kingdom. There is an absolute decrease of men and women employed in these factories between 1895 and 1901. This is doubtly due to the displacement of hand labour by machinery. Will tariff reform deal with that? Are the good, kind capitalists going to abandon their use of wage-saving machinery if we tax all foreign-made goods? Does what you call free trade help us out here? Do you think that abolishing the House of Lords or disestablishing the church will enable workers who are displaced to obtain employment? Since it is true, you admit, the machinery is the principal cause of employment, what are you going to do about it? What is your remedy? Nobody answered, because none of them knew any remedy, and Crass began to feel sorry that he had reintroduced the subject at all. I love that. Just think about some of those lines, where he's talking about the noticeable fact, the factories are growing, hugely increased in production, yet unemployment is still there. Saying that there may well be plenty of work, but what kind of work is it? Do you want to work 14 hours a day making matches for pence? There might apparently be this wonderful growth in the economy, as we are told, as the Tories constantly bang on. Everything is so much better. There are so many firms. They are so rich. Brexit is going to make us all so much better off when we get rid of all those nasty foreigners. There's going to be even more British firms, and they're going to make even more money. But are more people going to be employed? And if they are going to be employed, what sectors are they going to be employed in? What attempt has there even been to develop sort of technological and electronics and information-based industries in areas such as Great Yarmouth? There are none. It's just service economy, isn't it? The only jobs you can seem to get now are like call centres, working at McDonald's, anything involved in serving something to somebody where you can be damn well exploited on a 0 hours contract on poverty pay. No real jobs. No jobs that give you some kind of satisfaction in what you do. Only the kind of wage slavery necessary to support a highly advanced but technical society. This is not what is happening. Whatever the Tories tell you, if it was all so bloody successful, if there was no contraction in the British economy, why the hell would teachers be leaving the teaching profession? Why would doctors and nurses be leaving even working in this country? If the economy was doing so well and there was such low unemployment, then why the hell would we even have nurses eating from food banks? We've got nurses eating from food banks. I ask you, that cannot be allowed. But I just thought you might like to know, and just how people were talking about this even when Tressel wrote The Ragged Trousered Philanthropists over 100 years ago, I believe. Yeah, there's a lot more behind unemployment. Don't believe the Tory figures. All they've done is massage it. They've got people on 0 hours contracts included there. They've sanctioned people. They've got disabled people they're effectively killing to get the figures down. It's an absolute lie. The economy needs substantially and utterly restructuring, and other than making the economy fit only to make more money for very rich people, the Tories aren't doing any of that, because they only care that the rich get rich and the poor get poorer. That's me, over and out.